Yeah,
Hey, yeah.
what's
What's
going
happening, you
on?
fucking dog? What's happening? What's happening?
Mate, just settling in.
How
Settling in
how's it
for
how's the family settling into the new location?
dude, it's like we've lived here forever.
Really?
Yeah, it's amazing. It's absolutely incredible.
What um what makes it feel like that?
I've been thinking about this a fair bit because I take every morning, I go out to the ocean. I either go for a surf or I'll sit there and do some breath
How
work and
far do you
watch
live? Can you walk there or you need to drive there? You ride a bike? What do you
drive.
do?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I got to drive. It's 10 minutes.
yeah,
Um, but I just sitting there and watching it, and it feels like home because if like it literally is like home for me, like the south coast of New South Wales. Like I sit there
yeah.
on the ocean, on the coast, and watch waves, and there's whales and there's dolphins, and the environment's the same, and it's just yeah, I don't know. The energy just feels really aligned with where we're at
Yeah,
in life right now.
that's really cool. And what are the people like? Like, have you sort of interacted with many people or the community?
Yeah, so the first weekend we were here, we went down to the farmers markets and made a friend. First day there, just made a friend, the guy that owns a coffee company
Yeah,
around here, and yeah, I've been hanging with him a bit and
yeah, cool.
connecting with him, and then a friend of mine who's a pretty well known Australian artist.
Yeah,
I was connected with him while I was on the run, and then when we got to the Gold Coast, we were talking a heap, trying to plan some catch ups, but he was off to Europe, and then he got back and we moved, and I was like, hey man, do you want to come start training with me? And he's like, hell yes. And so been training with him every morning. So I'll go down to Byron, we'll do 6K run
yeah.
and do a mini workout, breath work, jump in the ocean, chat, and then it's on
So
with the
good.
day.
That's amazing, dude. So is that like like a little workout on the beach or like on like a park little gym thing or just like, what is it?
But it's both. So it's been on the beach and on this grassy area. You ever been to Byron?
Yeah, like a long time ago.
Where the surf club is, like the
Yeah,
main surf club across from the
in
pub, like
front
it's
of it.
if you're looking at the ocean, it's to the right of that on the
Yeah,
grass.
yeah, yeah,
And I take all my gear down. I'll take all the kettlebells and the
yeah.
sandbags, and yeah, so it's been fun, man. It's been so good.
Is there many people, like, I imagine there's a little, like a lot of people sort of doing that, like there are the little groups doing workouts in and around there as well?
Surprisingly, no. But
Really?
it's off season in Byron. Like the
Yeah.
township's a ghost town right now, which is cool because it's just all locals.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? Like that's interesting to me because I thought that I didn't think that them sort of people blew in there, but it seems like they sort of blow in. Like I thought a lot of them, because I went to Bondi. I went to Bondi the other week. First time I ever been to Bondi, dude.
What?
Yeah, bro. Yeah. And I went there and it was kind of exactly like I thought it would be, but like I was there early in the morning, so like I was gone before the sun. Like the sun was rising as I left, so like I just ran
Mm-hmm.
up and down. So like I would have missed a little bit of it, but I would have thought that there was more people sort of out and about, and like there was a few, but not as many as what I thought. And there was no one in the ocean. That was the biggest thing that really surprised me. I'm like, there's no one in the ocean, and for me, I'm like, why the fuck isn't anyone in here? And I was like, well, maybe
Mm.
I shouldn't go in there. Like, are they seeing something that I'm not? Like, because I'm not. I don't really have like a large amount of like ocean awareness. So I was
Mm.
like, yeah, maybe I shouldn't go for a swim. But I was like, fuck it. I went for a swim, and yeah, it was great. It was really really cool.
It's like, look, there's a ton of people out walking and running. Like, there's a lot of, so we run, and I'm only doing short runs right now. Carl's building his way back up to a decent capacity, and so we're doing like 6Ks is the max we
Yeah,
did. But yeah, we're running along the coastline there, up into Watergoes, which is part of the run that I did on the last day. And there's a lot of people walking and running and with their
yeah,
dogs, but yeah, no one working out. Like no one's training or
yeah.
anything.
I think that 6K. I was trying to think of this right. It's like, when there's like a sweet spot of like when you hit like that certain frequency or that feeling that you can acquire from a run. And I feel like it's around 3 to 6K. Like It's not sort of super deep. I think people think that it's like that, like it's like you have to do 20K or you have to do 30K. It's like what I figured out was that I could acquire that feeling after like 3 or 4, and then like it doesn't compound, it doesn't increase thereafter. Like that's the high you get, and you get to sort of cruise with it. But I think that 3 to 6K is like you can get that feeling, like that runner's high from that amount. It's
Oh man, it's a perfect spot. Like, and I mean, 6 to 10, there's that little bit of going beyond that threshold and just sitting in that uncomfortable space and learning. But the sweet spot between 3 and 6 is like it's sustainable. You know you can do it. How fast you want to do it's up to you and how you're feeling on that day. And it's like a good amount of time to invest in the body physically. Like you look 3 to 6, you're looking at a 15-minute to 30 minutes running, right? Like at a 6 kilometer pace. Like it's not fast. But it's like the perfect spot to just give to your body for the morning outside of training if it's not involved in some sort of training program.
Yeah. And that's what I think too. Like I understand, and I think people can be influenced or skewed off this, but like this, and I'm not trying to say, or I'm in support of like, you know, putting your body under stress physically at all times. But for the most part, none of us are training like enough to sort of warrant or like deem like to have all these rest days. It's like, hey, just chill out and rest. Like it's like we for the most part, the average person might train like 3 times a week for an hour. Like I don't think that you need to have like a rest day off the back of that workload. It's like I think that we can we can train every day because we're not doing enough. Like we're not, like even when you like, I don't think we need to rest as much as what everyone thinks or what everyone sort of preaches. The average person, even like the slightly more than average, right? Like I think you can train, you can put your body under physical stress for an hour a day, and it's totally fine. If anything, I think it's kind of healthy.
I agree, man. That's a positive load of stress on the body, which improves your overall physiology. It will improve. It improves your overall resilience, and not just that. Like you said, we're not doing enough to warrant that rest day. However, and this is a personal thing, I notice I need a rest when I'm like on the grind. Like if I'm working and on this last 2 months, I've been like hammering and I can feel my body
mentally.
But yeah, exactly. It's not from physical stress. It's from emotional and mental stress because I've been so focused on achieving a task. It's the mental stress from that. And that's when I know I need a rest. And they're the only signs. Like if I'm training hard, I'll get DOMs, but I can't remember a time that I was feeling fatigued from just consistently training. You know, I can't remember a time.
Yeah. I think when I was like heavily into CrossFit back in 2010, 2011, there was like
Good
I would have
years.
been the OG years. I remember like seeing like the guys like the Fronings and the guys at the tip of the spear, like the Kalipas and stuff like that. And I was like, everyone wanted to look like them, right? I was like, fuck, I want to do CrossFit and I want to look like them. And so me, uneducated, I was like trying to stay at like a calorie deficit to try to lean out and have like a muscular frame. But what I realized was like I was in that much of a deficit that I didn't have the calories to produce energy, and I was exhausted, bro. Like I was exhausted all the time, and I was like, oh yeah, I just eat all these fucking paleo. I eat paleo, but I was absorbing like a stupid amount of fucking dates and blueberries and like shit, I was making all these paleo treats. But yeah, like my nutrition was like I wasn't eating enough, and I think that's a really fine balance as well. Like it's like I can feel when I'm not eating enough to fuel my daily needs. And I think sometimes too that can get you can have a misconception of like, hey, like I feel down or ran down, or maybe you just need to fucking eat a little bit more food. Because I think like for the most part, a lot of us overeat. I haven't been eating breakfast lately, and just sort of experimenting with fasting through that morning window, and I feel good. But sometimes, and I'll mostly just eat meat for lunch. Like my first meal is about 12 o'clock, and it's just meat at the moment, just like pure meat. But I think I'm still missing an element of colors and biodiversity in my food. And I feel like if I need to figure out some of that biodiversity, which will help my overall. So like my beetroots and my cabbages and my sauerkrauts and some berries and
That's what I live off, man. Like meat, and then the pickled. Like I'll eat sauerkraut, pickles, jalapenos, olives, avos. I'll have berries and bananas. More recently, I started eating kiwi fruits and mandarins again. But I can live off that, and it's really good for my body. I can't eat too much cabbage. Like I don't have an issue with the sauerkraut, but when I eat raw cabbage or like boiled cabbage, my gut gets bloated. And I mean, it does that to everybody. Like even this is an old bodybuilder's trick. Bodybuilders used to eat heaps of cabbage so that they get a bigger stomach, so that they can eat more, so that they can get more calories in. There's a little trick, but for me, it makes me feel too uncomfortable. I don't have issues with the sauerkraut, but that's you've just described my day. Like meat at about 11. I'll have eggs as well, and then from there it's just like pickled, some berries, bananas, and I just transitioned to oat milk. So it's about the only type of milk product that I have. I was on almond for ages, man, but just more recent. Like I was convinced that almond milk was not good for you, and then all right, I'm gonna look a bit deeper, and of course it's not good for you at all. But I was looking, I was like, all right, what's a substitute? Because you get any milk. I mean, this is predominantly based upon me drinking a coffee, right? This is when deciding to have some sort of milk is based off of coffee. And you look at any of the milks on the shelves, man, long life oat, coconut, rice, soy, all of them are full of fucking seed oils, canola oils, sugar. And there's only one oat milk that I found that is the best, and it's got a small amount of sugar in it, but it's been the best, and coincidentally it's the best to brew as well for a coffee.
So I had, for the longest time, I would have, like, my coffee order would be a long black with a dash of almond milk. And it was like the milk for me in that was just take a little bit of the heat out of it. And then so when I was into almond, again, back into the CrossFit days, dude, like I would make, like, to try to buy coconut flour, basically you had to fucking kill an army to find it, right? It was like, there was all these ingredients. It was like so hard, or you kind of had to do it. It's like, there was no range. Like you had to get it from some fucking boutique online store, and it cost you a fortune. And now you're going to Woolworths, and there's like literally aisles of that kind of foods and ingredients. And I think it's no different than any other. And the long life milk is a perfect example of that, because when you couldn't buy almond milk from a supermarket, it wasn't a thing. And then the market changed. But what happens when these markets turn around, the big supermarkets identify that there's a market here, and then the manufacturers and all these companies also identify that market, and they start fucking producing it. And typically what we do is like, there might be some benefits of almond milk if you're creating, that yourself in some capacity. But when you put it in a heat treated container and then put it on a shelf, it takes away a lot of that. But still, the consumer wants the thought or the feeling that they're doing the right thing for their body, without looking in to see if it is actually healthy or not. Because there's some almond milks out there, dude, that taste like sweet, like it's like so sweet, and you're like, oh wow, these almond milks are delicious. This is like really good. And then they have that forever, but it's not necessarily healthy. They're trying to make a healthy choice, but without understanding, what's in it, because it's not necessarily healthy. There's so many almond milks, so many soys, so many oat milks now that are available to buy off the shelf.
Yeah,
my coffee order now, I've gone away from so I went from almond milk, and then I started having full cream, like a dash of full cream milk, and then just because I like that creaminess. And I've more recently, over the last couple of weeks, cut that out and just gone to, I just get like a long black with 2 ice cubes in it just to take that little bit of heat out, and it's fucking delicious. Yeah.
Right on.
So,
It's super interesting to see these milks. Like I remember when they first came in, it was around 2010, 12, predominantly because of the fitness movement and people were changing their perspectives on health and wellness. CrossFit probably influenced that a lot, but a lot of these boutique type milks, and even still today, like they preach, their marketing does it, and then they preach it about being this organic and it's biodiverse and it's like ethically sourced. But the simple fact that they're on the shelf of Woolworths negates that. Like the contract that company would have simply from Woolworths injecting capital into the company to have a consistent flow of order means that they have to mass produce quicker, more, which means something has to substitute or sacrifice, meaning that the organic side of things is gone or being completely diluted because of the speed to which they have to grow in order to fulfill these orders for big conglomerates like Woolworths. So it's super interesting to always walk down the aisle and see all these fancy milks and like the marketing around it. And then you hear people talk about it. It's like, yeah, it's organic and it's like this and it's that. It's like the simple fact that it's on the shelf at Woolworths. No, it's not. You know, like
there was a big Super Bowl ad in the last Super Bowl this year. And it was an oat milk. I forget the company, but it's a big oat milk company, and they had a really cool ad, and it went viral, like a lot of ads do from the Super Bowl. But yeah, it was just interesting because like that market, that oat milk market, is huge. And I'm not sure if have you ever had a chai tea with oat milk? It is fucking delicious, bro.
It's the best.
Delicious. Yeah,
it's the bread.
So it's like it's yummy. There's a company that I'm invested in called Our Cow. I think I mentioned it to you before. So like they've basically fucking ruined my meat consumption now because I can't have the supermarket meat. Like it's
good.
Like I've gone so far. It's like when you understand what it is, it's like this is like it's not meat. No. And I was talking to Dave, one of the founders of that company, because he's a cattle farmer in actually kind of near you, man. He's a cattle farmer in Casino.
That's pretty close.
And so I was talking to him about it, right? And they're actually big into keto diets now and health. Like they want Australia to eat better. Like that's and to support farmers. They've got really, really good values. But he was talking about like as a farmer, to fatten up their livestock in order to sell, they feed them grains. Okay. So if you look at that for what it is for us as humans, like that's like where cereal in a box is basically just like it's a material to use just to fatten us up. You know, and they put so much sugar in it, and it's just like there's nothing really there for us, right? Or for the average person. Maybe if you're like doing something like massive, like you're doing big runs, or you're doing like there might be a room for it if it's going to, you know, give you a huge amount of calories and be good for your gut. But for the most part, man, it's a fucking worst way to spend your day, like to start your day, jumping up and having a fucking bowl of cereal with some like basically see-through milk, whether that's like just even just the Woolworths milk, right? 2 liters for $2. It like you pour it out and it's almost fucking translucent. Like it's not, and then you can get other milks. I remember my uncle and auntie had a cattle farm in Mudgee, and they used to milk. My uncle used to get up in the morning when I used to stay there. We'd get up and there'd be like a 20-liter bucket of cow's milk, and they used to like go and get like a soup spoon and fucking pour it on their wheat bix. And to me,
raw milk's
like, what
good.
the fuck? Yeah. It was like, as a kid, I was like, what the fuck's going on here? Like, what are you doing? And they're like fucking running their finger around the loop, getting the cream. And like, as a kid, I wasn't used to that, right? It was like, weird. But for them guys, it was, totally normal. And like, when you taste proper, there is a milk, there's a local milk here there's a really raw one here, and it's delicious, bro. Like you could drink it by itself and it tastes beautiful.
Yeah, man. Like raw milk is phenomenal. I remember doing some training out. We were in California, staying at Cass's grandparents, and I love going there because one, they're just phenomenal people, but it's just quite a unique town that they live in Cali. It's not the traditional by the coast, like super 70s surfer vibe. It's like it's country, it's farming, it's like small town. And I remember doing this training. I was training for the run, and I did this big marathon out the back of all the cattle farms. And I'm running through like where California gets most of its meat, milk products, avocado products, macadamia, and all of those types of things. And watching these cattle farms, man, like it was disgusting. Like these cows are like a subway tube, man. Like they are squished together. They're locked into machines. They got slight sprinkle above head of water. Like these cows are stressed as fuck, you know, and it's not treated well. And I don't agree with the treatment of them, but not just that. Like if you're buying meat off the shelf from a supermarket, you're buying meat that has had cortisol and adrenaline running through it from the day of conception of this of this calf, you know, and then that is not good for the meat. And then they got to counteract that with hormones, so they inject hormones, or they'll increase the volume of grains that they're feeding the cows, which is monocropped as well with pesticides and herbicides. And so this animal is created for us to eat, but it's just full of chemicals, drugs, hormones, and they do that to increase the marbling of the meat so that they can get a better price for their cut, which logically makes sense. But in terms of sustainability and like whether it's good for us, it is not good. And I remember running through just seeing this, like I was just like heartbroken, because I know how many people are out there thinking that they're buying steaks from Woolies that say organic, farm raised, or, you know, grass finished. And it just, to some degree, they're ticking that box, but really it's not.
So there's one, I went to the sale yards with Dave and Bianca from our cow. There's big sales yards, and they're there. So they're buying, they have deals with local farmers in Australia. So if I'm a cattle farmer, I work with our cow, and I sell my cow straight to our cow. If you're a lamb farmer, you sell your lambs to our cow. So it cuts out all the sales, it cuts out all the middlemen. But I was in the sale yards because it's when you're like, they hang out there, like it's the thing that they do together. It's like going to a cafe. And there was the buyers there from Woolworths, the buyers there from Coles, and you could see the cows, the cattle in this yards. There's hundreds and hundreds of cattle in these yards, right? And like, I'm not a cattle farmer, but I know a sick animal if I see one. These animals, man, have like fucking sores all over their skin, like in some cases like fucking wounds that are open, like they got fur like hanging out of them, and like bald patches on their hinds, and like the consumers don't see that, right? Like there's no fucking way you would eat that. Yeah, well, I don't think there's like, if you wouldn't want to eat that animal if you saw it. You're like, fuck, it's kind of like, that's a bit gross. And yeah, like that's for the most part, that's the meat that people are consuming. And
they're the cheaper cows. That's where Woolworths and Coles and that can lower their margins, is because they're the cheaper buyers, right? They can go get the cheaper buyers because the overall finish of the cow itself is not high quality. You know, these cows have just been through transport, they've been through a life on a farm where they've been locked away and incarcerated, and for the most part stressed and like just freaked out. And so the meat that's coming through that's how they lower their margins and get so much meat coming through consistently, you know. And I got a good friend who I recently just did some psychedelic work with. He's in Victoria, owns cattle farms and sale yards, and he was telling me just some of the stories that go through there. But even so, farmers down there have started to increase the standard to which they're raising their cows, because they're noting that they're getting a better buy from local, organic, ethically sourced butchers, and they can sell quicker and more to those parts. And so they've been putting a lot more into their cattle or their livestock. And then they're obviously faced with environmental challenges, like Victoria's fucking cold, and you know, in terms of regenerative agriculture, it's not booming down there. It's starting, but it's not booming. And this all plays a role in what we're putting in our body. And I mean, this leads to what we were talking about last week, right? Like when we're sitting down to be intentional with our food, like this started, my intention with food started blessing my food by knowing that there's a high chance that what I'm about to eat hasn't been through a natural state of life and or ended up on my plate. I do my best. I absolutely do my best to source that. So me putting good energy into that means that I'm about to consume that and put that inside of my body. That's where that started. But for a lot of people, they're of the belief that what they're buying and what it's saying on the packet is exactly what they're going to be consuming. And when you consume meat that is full of chemicals and hormones, like that's interfering with your hormones on a molecular level. And so when you ask somebody, you know, they might be experiencing some sort of medical ailment or condition that's impacting their life. And they're like, yeah, but I eat really healthy. And then you go into what they're actually eating, and it's like, no, like the education here around food and how you intentionally relate to your food is where you're missing out. And you can improve drastically just from that process, you know?
See, to the guidelines in Australia to label meat grass-fed is very low, unfortunately.
I bet.
So I found out, man, that the animal only needs to be grass-fed for I think it was 130 days in order for that to be classed as grass-fed.
Not even a year, not even half a year.
No, so it's like yeah, like it's a very low number. And that's why I love our cow so much, is because they have their own standards. They're like, no, I want my animal on grass the whole lifespan. Like they're raised on grass, they're free to roam around. They've got an amazing Instagram because you can sort of see some of that, right? And then I can have traceability. So when you're talking about where your food comes from, I can buy lamb from our cow and I know that it comes from Will Burnett's farm on the mid North Coast, you know, and you have that footprint. And I think we touched on it before about like educating our children around food as well, because there's a lot of people that don't want to tell their kids that they're eating cow or they're eating lamb. It's like, so it's like being able to point on a map and say, hey guys, this lamb that we're eating now is from here, you know, like, and for them to be able to understand like where it comes from and what it is. And I think it's incredibly powerful, especially at scale.
Yeah, actually in the States, they like if you go to Sprouts or Whole Foods, they're like supposed to be these more upper class organic. They're not, but they've got some products in there where local farms send their products to the shelf there. And there's one company that are on the shelf. They do eggs, they do meat, they do some sauces, and for the most part are high quality and exactly what they say they are. But what they do on their packaging now is they've got a QR code. So every time you scan the QR code on whatever it is, you can actually download where exactly that fresh batch of eggs come from, what date, what time, where it was, what was happening climatically. Like there's so much information. And it's a really cool technique, or at least like a really cool marketing spin to be able to get people to be involved in the journey itself of whatever that is, you know?
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
When you're at the farmers markets, like you getting is it like mostly fruit and veg, or like is a farmer's market, is it mostly just it's like food that people have grown themselves mostly?
Yeah. So the ones here, they're pretty small, but mostly produce on our end, honey and some local spices and sauces. But if we, like Byron is a much larger market, but everywhere from the northern rivers, all the farms come in and they just like have their own stalls. So you've got meat, you've got produce, you've got honeys, you've got breads, cheeses, and they're all done by that person who's standing behind that bench. And it's a cool experience because you can connect. That's when you can start connecting to the food, because if you're connecting to the person who grew the food or raised the animal and went through the process, it's a deeper connection to what you're about to consume. And it feels, and this is where the deeper layer of being a human comes in, you're actually part of a community now. You are taking part in a community, which is such a vital piece to our evolution as human beings, mentally and physically. And, you know, every time we go to the farmers markets, we'll stand and chat. If they're not busy, we'll stand and chat to them about heaps of shit, because I want to know what they're doing. I want to know what challenges they're facing. I want to know how they're getting it to the store. I want to know what they're doing during the week. Like I want to know all of that. And it's a cool way to connect. This is how I connected with old mate Aldo, his name. He's from Peru. And he runs this company called Blue Arrow Coffee. Dude, I like, not just because he's a fucking rad dude, this coffee is seriously the best coffee I've ever had in my life.
And what makes it so good? Like what is it that makes it amazing?
That's a good, you know, another buddy of mine asked me that during the week as well. So I like a specific type of coffee. I don't like it too bitter. I like a bit of like kind of caramelly toffee notes to it. I don't like it like just blast coffee in your
Yeah.
face, even though he has one that's similar. So it's based upon the roast. It's based upon where it's grown. I believe it's based upon who grows it, how they grow it, who contributes to that community. I actually believe that happens to the bean as well. So we're talking energetics now, or metaphysics. But I brought it home and he said to me, these were freshly done a week ago. Leave them for a week. Coffee's best after about 2 weeks. Don't do it straight away. Like when people say, oh, this is freshly roasted, that doesn't mean it's good. And so I took his advice. And then he messaged me and he's like, send me a photo of your machine. I sent him a photo. He's like, all right.
Which is what? Tell me what it is.
I have a DeLonghi. So I'll send you a photo, but it's like this black thing. Automatic grinder. So we can put the beans in the top, automatic grinder. It's got an automatic tamper, and then you can brew your milk and everything on the sides as well.
Yeah.
And he said, all right, this set it to this, set it to this. Everybody likes their coffee differently, but you know, if you want the best from this bean, this is how you set it. And I did it. And I remember because the water was just blasting through. I've had this for like 6 months and the water's been smashing through it. But the first one where I nailed it, dude, the crema on top was like that. It took like a minute to pour. And I'm like, I could already smell it.
Wow.
I had a sip of the black, like of the short black. And I was just like, I could have gone short black from then on out. But the fact that I love some butter and milk and stuff in my coffee. And then I brewed it up and I messaged him straight back and I'm like, how? And then he gave me the story. Like he goes back to Peru and there's certain farms there that have been generation after generation after generation. There's no Western intervention. There's no like any.
No one's fucked with it.
No one's fucked with it. No one's fucked with the community. It's mum and pop. And he goes there, he meets with them, he gets the beans, he exchanges his finances with their contribution of the coffee. Like the whole process is just so organic. And he brings it back to Australia. And then I see how he interacts with coffee. And like even his energy towards coffee is just like super pure. Man, Blue Arrow coffee. Seriously, like just get it back. I promise you it'll change your life.
Yeah. Isn't it? It's so interesting to me that there's externally outside of the actual product or outside of the bean, there's so much that kind of adds to like how it makes you feel and taste, right? Like that guy, like the interaction, like the story, and it's like, wow, this is like a really cool thing. It's like it's the brand, right? It's like the reputation of who this guy is. Does he sell it grounded or only the bean?
Both.
Yeah, I'll buy some grounded. I don't have a grinder.
It's so good. We were even like, we went for a surf together on Sunday morning, and like I messaged him like, hey bro, you want to go for a surf? Like, yeah, I'd love to. And we went out and we were in the surf and it was pumping. Like it was huge. It was not a surf where you just casually sit around and just chat, but we're just sitting there talking about coffee and talking about where he gets it from. And and he's not huge, like he's just getting started, but he's like passion. You can see his passion through his branding, through the way that he like converses with customers. I went and bought 2 bags. He asked me what I did. I told him I was a psychedelic practitioner. Being from Peru, he knew all about psychedelics, and we haven't talked about that. Then we're talking about the coffee, and then I said, "Hey man, I'd love to connect with you outside of this." He's like, "Yeah, me too." I went away. We got some food, had some breakfast, and as I'm lining back up to get some more food for the kids, he comes over. He's like, "Will," and he gives me this little cup of coffee, and he's like, "Taste this, taste this." And that was when I was sold. I was just like, this is the best coffee I've ever had.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, I'll buy some grounded stuff. I went deep into like I was gonna I looked at like little handheld grinders and this, and like I just wanted something still to be simple. Like I didn't want to, like I'm not a massive dude. I'm so boring when it comes to like I'm happy and grateful for fucking instant coffee. Like a warm cup of instant, like I'm not up. If I only had to drink instant coffee for the rest of my life, I'm okay with that. Like it's all good. But I love when I have a good coffee, like I can appreciate a good coffee.
Yeah.
So I looked at the grinders, I looked at like all these different like the filters and this and that, but I kind of got a bit overwhelmed because of but again, maybe this is just me needing to slow down a little bit. I got a little bit overwhelmed with like the process of it. It's like if I just want to fucking go now. So yeah,
Get NaroPress. Have you got NaroPress?
no, dude. Like I've got a kettle. Like I don't
Dude,
eat like AeroPress,
AeroPress. So it's like a big fat syringe essentially,
right?
and you put your coffee grounds in it with a filter at the bottom, and then you put the water in the top, and it sits on top of your cup, and then you just push it down, and like you still get an epic coffee, but it's like a better,
Yeah, it's
and
like
it's portable. It's better than
yeah, wow.
it's similar to a French press,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
more portable, easier accessible, cheaper, and yeah, it's rad. But it's funny
yeah,
you say that about the like urgency of
yeah,
going through that process. I actually bought a kettle. It's a Fellow, and Fellow's
yeah.
like this classy like coffee brand, and they make really nice kettles. They make really nice pouring vases, and
Does
I
it go
bought
on the
it.
stove?
No, it's got its own charging, but it's like super simple. It's like this
Yeah,
square, one button, one panel, sits on there. It's this beautiful, elegant looking thing. And I bought it for two reasons. One, it's like a pour over. So it's got this long stem and it takes
yeah,
forever to pour water in. I bought it for that reason because I wanted to slow down. I wanted to be present. And if I'm going to get up and make a tea or a coffee, I wanted to just be like, okay, this takes a while. That's okay. Let's just be here in the moment. And the other reason I bought it was the aesthetics. Like it's just so sleek and beautiful. Every time I look at it, I'm just like, it inspires and it's creative. And I'm just like
yeah,
in this flow now. So yeah, it's super interesting you said that because I bought that kettle and my coffee thing for the exact same reason, to slow down.
yeah. That I like that, and like I'll spend money on things that come that come with a feeling like that as well, right? So it's like,
Mhm.
and I think too, like if you go have a surf or you go and have a hard workout and you haven't eaten that morning and you like go like that, if you have a cup of coffee, it's like it's fucking hits different, right? Like this is
Yeah.
incredible. I actually bought like even my like I'm obsessed with food, so like the oven that I spent like fucking 16 grand on an oven, and it's like
Which one did you get?
I got it's a
Smeg?
Falcon. No, I didn't. I actually went away for like I looked into that. I got a brand called a Falcon, which is it's a German brand.
Yeah, I know them.
This is like 180 years old.
Yeah, they're so good.
And so when I got that is, and when you cook in that, it's just you get a better result. Like the heat is, and it's only like the average person's not going to notice it, right?
Yeah,
But you get a much better result. And if you're putting good food in there, and then you get to experience that food with your family, and you get to like use this amazing tool that they've spent hundreds of years perfecting, then
yeah.
it's a very special feeling.
I nearly
And I
bought one of
remember
them when we built our house. I was just
really,
like, I ended up getting the British one, which was
yeah,
like a step down. I think it was like 9 grand, but like I
yeah,
remember looking at a Falcon and I was just like, I'm getting that. And Cass was like, I'm not
yeah,
spending 16 grand on
yeah, yeah, yeah.
that.
And I think too, it's like I like to have it's like the hero piece in almost the whole house. Like
Mhm.
when you see it's like fuck that's gangster, and
It's a
it'll
statement.
last. It is, man. Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
big freestanding dog. So yeah, I like the well, even when I went down that hole of like looking for different coffee alternatives or different ways, like I researched into it and I was going to get them ones that you boil the water on the stove again because it
Oh
reminds me
yeah.
of like my nan and pop. Like that's
Yeah.
how like they would have like a pot on the stove always, and just sit
Yeah.
there, especially because they used to have like the wood oven. So like when you talk about like ovens, it's like having a cake that your nan has made from scratch, cooked in a fucking wood-fired oven, is
It's
like,
different, eh?
bro, what are we fucking doing? Like it's
It's
incredible.
different.
And then like they have that like it's like a sponge cake or they're cooking biscuits in there. Like it's incredible. And I think too, it's like even like the Traegers, or there's one in Australia, Z Grills, which I've looked
Yeah.
into as well. I didn't really understand it to begin with, how they're cooking with pellets. I'm like, well, it seems a bit fucking weird. But when you understand it, it's like it's wood, like it's compressed wood, like you're cooking with wood
On a
and
fire.
on a fire, bro. And it's actually strange we're talking about fires now because we got a wood fire in our house, and I was trying to think of like why fires are so like mesmerizing, right? Like everyone love. I don't know anyone that doesn't like watching a
Here we
fire.
go.
Like
I love
they
this.
kind of like catch your attention. You just get lost in it, right? And I
Yeah.
was trying to understand why that was, and the conclusion that I come up with was that fire as an energy and as like a product is like thousands of years ago as humans, like I feel like we have a connection with that past, like because
Yeah.
fire was so important in where we are today, that I feel like there's still a connection that we none of us identify with from thousands of years ago.
Well, we in Australia we call it a bush telly, right? Like you sit there and
Yeah,
watch the bush telly. Now, the Spanish translation of fire is fuego, and
yeah,
in a lot of ancient Amazonian and Mayan cultures, the fire is the gateway to open portals and talk with ancestor and spirit. So they use fire as ceremony, and it's always the centerpiece. And in some cultures, through different ceremonial practices, the fire has to stay burning for a certain amount of time, and that's the portal. And if you've ever, I know you haven't, but just from experience, if you sit around a plant-based medicine ceremony where there's a fire in the middle,
yeah.
I've been in both settings where there's been one and there hasn't been one, and I can promise you it is a gateway to the portal.
Wow.
And then the second piece to that is more primitive and science-based expert, is that fire is part of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You know, the first base layer of Maslow's hierarchy of needs is warmth, shelter, safety, these elements of human connection. Fire is warmth. When we learned how to make fire, we were able to, be resilient towards different temperatures and be in different things. And ever since then, we've utilized fire as a warming element for our bodies. And then if you go into Ayurvedic medicine, so Eastern philosophy around nutrition and medicine itself, fire as a dosha inside of the body does different things, right? And then the elements interact with us. And so fire, as you're saying it, is like a super potent piece to being human for so many reasons.
Yeah. And even too, it's like, and you can see it in movies, like even like kids movies, like the Jungle Book, like they use fire to like fight off like people, like animals that are trying to eat them or attack them. Like it's a tool for not only for warmth and for safety, it's warmth and safety, because
It provides that.
It attracts the community. It's a little bit like how like people would like, they refer to things in the office, like, like the room is around the water cooler, like that the water cooler is the one that attracts everyone. The fire is something that will bring a community together, especially on a cold night in the morning. And there's something even for me, if my fire, for whatever fucking reason, I think it's just something that's ingrained into my bio, but I don't really like using fire starters. Like I want to try to do it fucking naturally. And if the fire's nearly gone out in the morning, I want to kind of spark that up and just try to keep the fire going because have a think about this, man, like for the most part, like fire, there's always, especially before lighters and things like that, you had to keep that fire going, because it was really hard to restart. So it's like, trying to keep that fire going, I think is just as important as to try to start it in the beginning.
Yeah, absolutely. Provides warmth. We can cook on it. It's light. Like it does so many different things. The utility of fire is wild.
So you reckon like the ceremonies that you've done when there's a fire, it just like it relaxes people or it centers people, or what do you think it does?
I believe it connects us to source. So whatever the supreme intelligence is that we have faith or hope in, whatever we align with our beliefs, I believe it connects us directly to that stream of consciousness. Like when I've been in ceremony, obviously your consciousness is open a lot more than usual, because you've got different neural pathways firing and wiring. You have access to different parts of your soul's archives, which are called the Akashic records. And in the process of going through that, to be able to connect with something external, which is also part of the supreme intelligence, it's like getting swept up in like the Bifrost as a funny example, like Bifrost in Thor, right? It's the connection between worlds and realms. I believe the fire is that. And when I've sat in ceremony, you look at it for 5 seconds, it's got you straight away. And there's been different medicines that I've worked with. Take Changa, which is like a DMT, but it's made out of different medicinal plants. So it's not synthesized or created from like frog venom or anything like that. It's made from different plants. And in Australia, Changa itself can be extracted from acacias, which grow in only one location in Australia, which is the Central Coast. And you get these plants and you can extract and make this DMT, which is called Chang. And I've sat with Chang as a medicine before in ceremony. And when you sit around the fire, this has happened to me every time. It's actually even happened to people that I've been with. And then more recently, I've met an artist and tattooist who actually draws and paints experiences from these realms. And every single time there's a fire, and when I've sat there in front of the fire, the actual external elements that I'm sitting around actually change shape and take on the form of something that is of higher consciousness. Every time I've sat there around a fire, the fire turns into Lego. Everybody that I'm sitting around has like these native traditional masks, and like it turns into like this teepee type vibe. And then you sit in this atmosphere and you just feel so safe. I feel like I'm like centuries before, but you just feel so safe and connected. And you can even see the energy flowing through the air and the energy from the fire. And if you look at the fire long enough, it actually starts to talk to you. And that's not just a hallucination. That's just like connection.
Because even as in flames, the flames are all, like, we can't see wind. We can only see the energy that, like, we can see the flame move, which is an indication of heat and wind. We can see a branch on a tree blow, but we can't see the actual energy itself. We only see like the result of that energy. That's super interesting.
I'll send you a photo of this artist, Ben Lopez, his name is. And I actually went and watched him paint at a festival I was at in Brisbane not too long ago.
Where's he from?
He's from Melbourne. He lives in Melbourne. Tattoos, does canvases. But I remember sitting in the art studio at this festival, and I was standing there in front of one of his pictures for like 45 minutes, just looking at it and just like completely mesmerized. I'll send you the photo, and it explains exactly what I was just talking about, the experience that you'd have around these medicines and around fuego, the fire. It's pretty powerful.
So in Australia, what other plant medicines do we have in Australia?
Every single plant medicine. So we have ayahuasca, wachuma, which is the San Pedro cactus. We have all different species of psilocybin, which is the magic mushroom. We have iboga is here in Australia. It's very small and quite harder to source, but it is here. What else we got? There's definitely there's more cacti species that are different. We've got Amanita muscaria, which is the mushrooms that are always in kids' fairy tales, the red and white ones. I used to work with them in Victoria because they grew in my front yard. So I just go out and forage them and then boil them and extract them and work with them. They're pretty powerful. What else have we got?
Isn't it weird that, like, and you're a lot deeper than I, but it's like, since I've been more conscious of it or just being aware of it, like how many stories, like especially older stories, have mushrooms in them in some capacity, like a fairy tale or
kids' playgrounds.
Kids' playground is right, bro. It's like the thing. It's like there's a fairy and there's a mushroom. There's a fucking fairy and a mushroom in every story. And and like someone come up with that, right? And did they come up with it because they saw fairies when they ate mushrooms, or like that's the most likely thing, like
stems from Scandinavia. It stems from like the long lineage of Viking or Norse mythology. So they used to use mushrooms as a tool to connect to supreme intelligence, Odin, the gods, and they would oftentimes see these pixie, fairy, elf-like creatures, and it comes from there. And if you go back through Norse mythology, nearly every single story has the Amanita muscaria, which is the red and white mushroom, and some sort of mystical being that's attached to it. And like any theological stories or metaphors, they're all very, very similar. like you take the Quran versus the Bhagavad Gita versus the Bible, like there's main characters and they're all very similar in characteristics and personality traits, and there's all very similar messaging. It's the same with psychedelics. When you look into the study and theology around psychedelics and these ancient tribes, they're very, very similar across the board, and it all stems, and even in the Bible. Have you ever read the book, what is it? It's written by The Immortality Key, I think it's called, and it's written by Brian Muraresku. Never touched a psychedelic in his life.
Yeah.
Invested everything in his bank to going back to the source of psychedelics that we know in this timeline. And it stems back to biblical times. And if you go through the Bible, which he does, there's stories in there about how they used to drink tea with mushrooms to gain access to talk to God. And it's everywhere. Like even in the Bhagavad Gita, there's similar messaging. And so it's very interesting in today's timeline how we've just like poo-pooed it, and it's definitely correlated to the Christian following. I'm not generalizing or throwing stones, but it is directly related. But as well, over time, psychedelics have transformed into what we call drugs, and drugs do kill people. They definitely do, because of the nature of what they do to people and how addictive they can be. And then people eventually kill people because they are the ones taking the drugs. But unfortunately, these traditional technologies, these plant-based medicines, have been lumped into this drug narrative. And it's slowly coming out of that now because there's literature. Oh, wow, what a surprise. There's literature to support and research to support that taking psilocybin can improve and cure your PTSD or depression or suicidal ideations. And it's been happening for a very, very long time. It's just that now there's science to back it, which is good.
I remember when we were at school, and it was like the message from adults to us as teens was that if you smoked weed, you would end up as a schizophrenic.
Yeah.
Like that was the thing, right? It's like, oh, wow, don't fucking smoke weed. If you smoke a bong, you're going to end up as a schizophrenic. This is what a schizophrenic looks like. You're like, fuck, I don't want to be that person. But it's crazy. But
if you look at the traits,
I haven't even heard about schizophrenia. Like that's not a thing. It's not a term that's even used anymore. Like I don't think I've never heard schizophrenic as a term. Like you hear a lot about like other sort of other illnesses, but yeah, schizophrenic isn't sort of one that I hear a lot.
No, but you look at schizophrenic and look, on some level, the chemical imbalance that is occurring for some people who are schizophrenic or paranoid, it's definitely real. But if you break down that behavior, that psychological behavior, you break down schizophrenia, somebody who has used a compound like cannabis has accessed a higher state of consciousness, meaning that they are thinking outside of the matrix. Okay, this is abnormal and normal. They've used a compound or a medicine to access a higher state of consciousness, and they are thinking outside of the box. This is not a negative thing. This is a very positive thing. Where it becomes negative is when they start talking about it and society says, you're a fucking Looney Tune. You need to, and then over time, the person who has accessed this higher state of consciousness wants to go back. So they continue to use the substance to go back to the higher state of consciousness. And as they do that, society continues to tell them, you're a Looney Tune. So the behavior of schizophrenia, although it does exist, on some level, I would argue that these people who have been labeled schizophrenic may not necessarily be crazy. They may just have accessed a different form of consciousness, and then everybody told them they were a psycho for so long that they started to believe themselves, and then all of a sudden their psychology is transformed because of what society has told them they are.
Yeah, they've put an external, like they've put the label that everyone sort of put on them, and they adopted that. Yeah, for sure, man. Yeah. And I think too, it's like marijuana is looked at like a gateway drug to these other like nasty drugs, right? But I think and something that we spoke about before with alcohol is like sometimes these drugs, if you're not conscious enough, they'll bring out the best in you, and that can bring out the worst in you.
Yeah.
So it's like you need to be in an environment that supports, that state of mind that you're going to acquire with these different drugs. And if you're a bad person and you have bad values and you're around bad people, yeah, it's very likely that when you do some of these drugs, you're going to get a negative result.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
They require ritual, and that's why, you know, these plant-based medicines, they require reverence. They have come from tribe. They have come from a culture that we were a part of. They've come from that. They are traditionally practiced there by shamans and the like, and they are implemented through ritual. They're not used as I wake up, I microdose, and I do my thing, even though it's very potent and it does work very well. Not against that, but it requires ritual. And it's not like a recreational thing. It's like this is used for this intention, for this reason, by this way. And that's the important piece. And Western society, and I mean, not just Western, Eastern as well. We have this like impulsive nature about us. We have this addictive nature about us. And the two together, it's just like, give me more, give me more, give me more. All of a sudden you're down that dark hole. All of a sudden, I've been smoking so much weed that I've got to go buy from different people, and I buy from this person who's a bit more reliable. He's hanging with this person, she's hanging with this person. And then you find yourself in this sphere, and that's where it turns into this negative narrative.
Yeah. Interesting. Legend, big dog.
Right, man.
I appreciate you very much. You have a wonderful day, and
You too.
we'll chat soon.
All right, my bro.
Peace.
Peace out.